The morning sun in Phoenix was beginning to paint the windows of the high-rise condominiums in the Biltmore district a golden hue. April Collins was reviewing the day's property listings in her tastefully decorated home office. On her desk lay neatly stacked contracts from a recently closed major deal. The modern furnished room was filled with the gentle scent of lavender, her favorite fragrance. Perfect. This property will do just fine, April smiled contentedly as she entered a new viewing appointment into her smartphone calendar. At just 29, she had achieved an annual income of $80,000 and owned this luxury apartment, truly the fruit of her own hard work. In the adjoining kitchen sat a coffee cup from Starbucks, where she stopped every morning, alongside a breakfast bowl filled with organic fruit from Whole Foods. The path since leaving home at 17 hadn't been easy. For the first year, she rented a friend's spare room at a discount and worked as a waitress until late at night. She put herself through college using scholarships and night jobs, gradually making her mark in real estate. Now proudly displayed on her desk was a Phoenix Best Real Estate Agent 2024 award plaque. Her bank balance had already exceeded $100,000, and that number was steadily growing each day. Outside her window, the majestic form of Camelback Mountain loomed hazily through the morning mist. With deep satisfaction, April reviewed her schedule for the day at her office along Camelback Road. Meanwhile, at her parents' single-family home in the Paradise Valley district, a very different scene was unfolding. Built in the 1990s, the house was losing its former luster. The neglected lawn had turned brown, and the exterior paint was peeling in places. The merciless Arizona sun beat down on the house, while the aging air conditioner constantly groaned. "Michael, why don't you try looking for a job?" Tom called out to his son, who was setting up for a gaming stream in the living room. But his words fell on deaf ears. Since dropping out of college and declaring he would become a pro gamer, Michael's monthly income still hadn't reached $1,000. His room, filled with expensive gaming equipment, stood as testament to $20,000 in credit card debt paid from his parents' wallet. "Honey, leave him be. He's working hard toward his dream. Besides, Michael has struggled with asthma since he was little. After all that time in the hospital, I want him to do what he loves now," Diane intervened, shielding her son. Tom, a former factory manager, had lost both the authority he'd maintained for 30 years and financial security with his recent retirement. Most of his $250,000 retirement fund had been depleted by Michael's living expenses and credit card payments. The remaining $180,000 mortgage weighed heavily with its monthly payments. "How are you doing? You should come visit us sometime," a message from her mother appeared on April's smartphone. Contact from home had been increasing lately. April felt particularly uneasy about the growing number of conversations about money. The discussions always centered around updates about her brother and the financial problems that came with them. "Michael got into a bit more debt this month, but it'll be fine because he's sure to succeed on YouTube. He gained 100 more subscribers." A sense of urgency had begun creeping into her mother's words. April sighed deeply as she stared at the screen. Having left home at 17 and carved out her own path in life, she couldn't understand her parents' and brother's naive thinking. The increasing frequency of monthly contact felt like an omen of something about to happen. As the evening sky began to turn red outside the living room window of her luxury condominium, April quietly set down her smartphone. One evening, on the top floor of a modern office building on Camelback Road, April was doing a final review of contracts for a major property deal. It was a memorable day. She had just closed the largest deal of her career, a $4 million property that would bring her a commission of $120,000. The transaction involved a large mansion in the upscale Scottsdale district. "Excellent work, April," her boss, Jessica Morrison, called out with a warm smile. Jessica was more than just a superior to April. As a mentor who knew the real estate industry's challenges inside and out, she had guided April with both strictness and kindness. "Let's celebrate tonight at a restaurant in Biltmore Fashion Park. I hear there's a lovely new Italian place that's getting great reviews." But April shook her head apologetically. "I'm sorry, I'd like to head home early and rest today." In truth, she felt somewhat unsettled. Over the past few days, calls from home had increased abnormally. She stared at the 15 missed calls displayed on her screen, sighing deeply as if preparing for what was to come. And just as she was feeling this anxiety, the fateful call came. The screen displayed "Mom." April hesitated for a moment before answering. "April? We need to talk." It was her mother's tone when she was about to bring something up. April straightened her back, catching a glimpse of her reflection in the office's large window. Dressed in a navy pantsuit, she was no longer the girl who had left home years ago. "Your father's retirement fund is almost gone." Her mother's voice trembled. What followed exceeded even April's premonitions. The $250,000 retirement fund had been nearly depleted in just 6 months, spent on Michael's gaming equipment, debt repayment, and living expenses. "Won't you move back home? If we could put your rent money toward this, the monthly mortgage payments are getting difficult." A moment of silence. Various thoughts crossed April's mind. Her own monthly mortgage payment was much higher than her parents', yet she continued to make payments on her own. Also, we need help with Michael's living expenses. He's still working hard to succeed on YouTube. Her mother's voice no longer carried any trace of her former composure as a housewife. April took a deep breath before carefully choosing her words. "That's difficult." "Why not? You're making plenty of money." Her mother's voice suddenly rose. "This is family duty. Such sacrifice should be expected." Her father's voice joined in from the other end. "Michael is your brother. Helping him should be natural." His former authority as a factory manager had vanished, replaced by a desperate cry. Her parents' voices alternated. "Sell the condo and give up the luxurious lifestyle? How could you abandon your brother?" April could hear her brothers sobbing in the background. The air in the room grew heavy and suffocating. However, April's expression remained calm. At 17, she had made a decision. Never again would she let her parents control her life. The hundreds of scholarship applications she'd written, the late nights working as a waitress, the years spent building her credentials in the real estate industry after graduating college. It all seemed to exist for this very moment. A slight smile appeared on her lips. Yes. I understand completely. Her tone mixed icy coldness with steel-like strength. Her parents were momentarily speechless at their daughter's unusual calmness. From the other end of the line, her mother squeezed out an anxious April. Goodbye. April quietly ended the call. The setting sun reflecting in the office window tinted her profile red. As she placed her smartphone on the desk, her expression was filled with determination. This was no longer just a family dispute. It was the beginning of a battle for her life. She carefully stopped the recording on her smartphone. The entire conversation with her parents had been recorded. One piece of necessary evidence, April calmly saved the file. Standing up, April began composing new emails on her PC. One was addressed to the company's legal counsel. Another was for her maternal aunt, Linda Wilson. As a high school teacher, her aunt was the only family member who would understand April's decision. I need to gather the necessary evidence. She had begun analyzing the situation calmly. Her smartphone contained numerous persistent messages from her parents, including emotional demands and sometimes threatening language. All of these would serve as weapons in the upcoming battle. April pulled a notebook from her office drawer. In it, she had meticulously recorded family incidents since she was 17. Dates, times, conversations. Everything seemed to have been prepared for this day. Looking down at Phoenix's glittering nightscape, April smiled quietly. Her parents probably hadn't realized how much she had overcome and grown stronger since leaving home at 17. Or how much preparation she had made for this battle. Tomorrow, the real fight would begin. There was no hesitation left in April's expression. This evidence should be sufficient. In a conference room at a law firm on Camelback Road, a gray-haired female lawyer was reviewing documents. April's evidence was perfect, threatening messages from her parents, recorded conversations, and detailed records kept since she was 17. But are you really okay with this? Taking legal action against your own parents? Linda voiced her concern. As a high school teacher who had witnessed many students' family problems over the years, she understood the gravity of the situation. Yes, I'm fine, April answered quietly. This isn't just retaliation. It's necessary action for the future of the entire family. The lawyer reviewed the documents, organizing the situation. First, let's investigate Michael's credit card debt. We'll need to confirm the existence of any debt guarantee documents signed by your parents. April opened her laptop and displayed saved PDF files. These are my brother's credit card statements. Most expenses are for online games and gaming equipment. The data revealed shocking facts. Over the past 6 months, Michael had spent over $20,000 on gaming-related items. Most payments had come from their parents' retirement fund. The movement in your parents' bank accounts is concerning, the lawyer frowned. This is, clearly a waste of assets. Linda sighed while reviewing the documents. Oh, Diane, she's spoiling Michael too much. She's become overly protective since his asthma incident. April nodded silently. Her brother's childhood hospitalization had indeed been a turning point for the family. However, that wasn't an excuse for excessive protection. "Let's prepare a cease and desist letter," the lawyer said decisively. "We'll legally notify them to stop their unreasonable demands and harassment immediately." The Phoenix skyline stretched out beyond the conference room walls. Under the blazing sun, April grew more convinced that her choice was right. "April, we need workplace precautions too." Jessica had joined the meeting. Her presence was a great source of support for April. "Since your parents might show up at work, we should notify security in advance. We can change your business phone number if necessary." April looked at her boss with gratitude. "Thank you, Jessica. But I think it'll be okay." That evening, April sent emails to her maternal relatives. The content explained the situation and sought understanding for what might unfold. The attached evidence documents supported the legitimacy of her claims. "April, I'll talk to them too," Linda offered. Her credibility as a high school teacher would be valuable in convincing the relatives. "We'll need to be especially careful in explaining this to your maternal grandmother. She values family bonds above all else." April nodded silently. Indeed, her grandmother held traditional family values. But even she needed to accept the truth. Late that night, April was doing final checks in her home office. The email from her lawyer detailed the steps for legal action. The first draft of the warning letter would arrive tomorrow. New messages from her parents had arrived on her smartphone. But she was no longer shaken. All messages were saved as evidence and forwarded to her lawyer. There's no turning back now. Outside her window, Phoenix's nightlights sparkled. April's determination had become as strong and unwavering as those lights. This isn't just rebellion. It's a battle to save the entire family. She quietly turned off her PC. April's counterattack was about to begin. A heavy atmosphere hung in the private room of Vincenzo's, an upscale Italian restaurant in the Paradise Valley district. Around the table sat the main members of the Collins family and relatives. This emergency family meeting, called by her parents, had drawn about a dozen relatives, including her grandmother. April took out a tablet from her quality leather bag. The screen displayed presentation materials she had prepared through multiple consultations with her lawyer. Beside her sat Linda, her strong supporter. "I have something to tell everyone today." April's voice was surprisingly calm. But before she could continue, her parents stood up. "Before that, we have something to say," Tom raised his voice. "April is threatening us with legal action." The room stirred. Diane appealed tearfully, to threaten her own parents with lawyers. "I don't remember raising such a daughter." All eyes turned to April. Particularly piercing was the stern gaze of her grandmother, the family matriarch. "What we're asking for is just normal family duty," Tom continued. "Helping your brother and looking after your aging parents. Isn't that a child's obligation?" "That's right," Diane sobbed. "Michael is still young. Given the chance, he's sure to succeed. As his sister, can't you provide even a little support?" Voices of criticism began emerging from the relatives. Are you abandoning your family? What a cold daughter. Has success made you arrogant? But April's expression remained unchanged. If anything, a small smile played on her lips. Then, let me explain. The tablet connected to a projector, displaying materials on the wall. The first shown was Michael's credit card statement. These are my brother's expenditure records for the past year, April began explaining calmly. Monthly average spending, $3,000 on gaming equipment, $2,000 on in-game purchases, and $1,000 on gaming-related goods. As the numbers appeared one after another, the relatives' expressions gradually changed. And these are my parents' bank account movements. The screen changed. The use of the $250,000 retirement fund was detailed. Michael's debt repayment, living expenses, gaming-related expenses, and the history of delayed mortgage payments. My parents have spent almost all of their retirement fund on Michael. As a result, even their mortgage payments are now at risk. April paused before displaying the next material. And these are records of demands and threats from my parents. Messages, recorded conversations, email records. Emotional demands, sometimes threatening words. Everything was organized chronologically. Her grandmother sighed deeply. Tom, Diane, is this true? Her parents were speechless. They could no longer deny the facts. And finally, April displayed new material. These are my brother's actual YouTube channel revenue data. Average monthly viewers, 250. Revenue, less than $50 per month. Michael looked up. Sis, why would you go so far? Why? April's voice carried emotion for the first time. Your chances of succeeding as a pro gamer are statistically almost zero. Yet our parents are about to lose all their assets chasing that illusion. Linda stood up. Let me add something. As a high school teacher, I've seen many young people. Spoiling is not love. Rather, it can become poison that destroys a child's future. The room fell silent. The grandmother slowly spoke. April, I understand what you're trying to say. But why legal measures? This was the last resort, April answered quietly. My parents refused to listen to any of my persuasion. If left unchecked, they would lose all their retirement assets, and Michael would never become independent. She took out a document from her bag. This is my proposal. It was a detailed family reconstruction plan. Michael's participation in vocational training programs, parents' financial rebuilding plan, and a schedule for gradual independence support. Following this plan, Michael can earn a stable income within a year. Parents can maintain their mortgage payments. However, April showed a stern expression. This requires serious cooperation from everyone. A long silence enveloped the room. Surprisingly, Michael was the first to move. Sis. I actually knew. But I didn't want to admit it. YouTube streaming was just an escape from reality. Tears welled up in his eyes. I'll stop running away. I'll face forward and live properly now. Diane embraced her son. But this time, it wasn't an overprotective embrace. Something had changed in her eyes too. Tom sighed deeply and slowly bowed his head. April. I'm sorry. We were wrong. The grandmother smiled quietly. April, you made the right choice. This is a form of love, the courage to wake up your family with truth. The atmosphere in the room gradually changed. The looks of criticism disappeared, replaced by new understanding and hope. Outside the window, the Arizona sunset painted the desert landscape red. It seemed like an omen of a new dawn for the Collins family. As April quietly packed away her materials, she thought to herself, "This isn't the end. The real battle to create a new family dynamic starts now." On Christmas morning, the family home in Paradise Valley was wrapped in a peaceful atmosphere. The Collins family had changed dramatically in the 6 months since their fierce confrontation. Under the large Christmas tree in the living room, Michael was absorbed in reading training materials for his new workplace. Using the knowledge gained from his IT technician training program, he had begun taking steady steps as a trainee at a local software company. His monthly income would start at $2,500 as a trainee and was scheduled to increase to $4,000 in 3 months when he became a full-time employee. "Michael, breakfast is ready." Diane's voice no longer carried the excessive indulgence of before. Through family counseling, she had learned to maintain a healthy distance from her children. From the kitchen wafted the aroma of her traditional Christmas breakfast. "Thanks, Mom. But I need to leave early today. I have additional training in the afternoon." Diane showed a slightly lonely expression but quickly nodded brightly. "I see, do your best." Tom was in the garden, tending to the lawn for the first time in a while. His post-retirement life had gradually found a new rhythm. After learning basic accounting at the local senior center, he had started part-time work providing accounting support for small businesses. The monthly income of about $800 helped with the mortgage payments. "Dad, how's that electric trimmer working out?" April entered the garden carrying shopping bags. She had made it a habit to visit home every Sunday. The former tension was now gone. It's very helpful. Thank you for the Christmas present," Tom smiled at his daughter. "You were right, it's important to use good tools." Inside, Linda was helping Diane in the kitchen. The relationship between the sisters had deepened over these 6 months. "April, is he coming to dinner today?" Linda inquired about her niece's love life. "Yes, David will be here. He said he'll come directly after work." Her relationship with the investment analyst, whom she met through a large real estate deal, had brought new happiness to April's life. She was steadily moving forward in both her career and private life. Michael looked up from the living room. "Sis, I actually have something to report." He opened his new laptop and showed her the screen. It displayed a notification of passing a programming certification exam. "That's wonderful." April felt genuinely proud of her brother. The sight of him escaping into games was nowhere to be seen anymore. Their grandmother was also expected to join the family dinner in the afternoon. Recently, she had been making efforts to understand the younger generation's values. Her attempt to find balance between tradition and innovation had become an inspiration for the whole family. "April, how did that contract work out?" her father asked, taking a break from his yard work. "It went well. This month's sales are at 120% of the target." Father and daughter became engrossed in business talk. His former authoritarian attitude had disappeared, replaced by conversation between equals. In the afternoon, Michael left for his training. His back appeared more dignified than before. "He's really changed, hasn't he?" Diane murmured reflectively. "Yes, but Michael isn't the only one who's changed." April gazed at her mother kindly. "I think we've all grown a little bit." As evening fell, the Collins family living room was filled with family members and their partners. The Christmas dinner prepared by Diane and Linda lay spread on the table. "Let's make a toast." Grandmother raised her glass. "To our new bonds." Outside the window, Arizona's winter sun was quietly setting. Its gentle light seemed to be blessing the Collins family's new story. April looked around at her gathered family and thought to herself. That fierce confrontation had been a necessary turning point. Without it, perhaps none of them could have changed. Sometimes love means confronting harsh truths. Next year will be even better. The whole family nodded with warm smiles at her words. This wasn't just wishful thinking. Each person was fulfilling their responsibilities and respecting one another. This new family dynamic was surely taking root.